Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Sakura Edition for the smartphones, specifically iOS for Apple iPhones, as well as Samsung for Android phones, and you pretty much named the rest of it. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to fully complete Pirates Ocean as Mimi by going through, I would classify for saying, a grand total of 22 stages during the forms of this entire world. So, yeah, you pretty much get the idea about that. So today, for this video, is that we're going to be continuing things on and move on to the next world in this game, which appears to be Sinking Swamp. So, as far as I'm aware, this world is basically based off from World 9, from Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz within the same world name as before. However, though, the biggest difference is this time is about the fact that we can no longer jump in this game. So, makes it a little bit more obvious about the fact that if you do have a jump button, it makes the entire challenge a lot more unnecessary. But regardless of such, though, is about the fact that, you know, like I stated before, that the jump button was only existent in the original Banana Blitz, in addition to the HD version as well, to compromise with the level design. And on top of all that stuff, though, there is also the ones in Banana Mania, which is entirely optional if you want to equip that, if you can't be bothered able to fall off so many times. So, and I don't need to able to get that feedback, because I already know about the fact that we'll discuss more about the forms of the final boss of this game once we make our way to the true final day of 2024. So yeah, we'll save that topic for later. So, but I digress. So yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 28th today in December in 2024 today. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, recently though, me, Jewel, and the Powerpuff Girls, as well as the Ponies, have recently saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie. Well, technically speaking, though, from our perspective, it is actually technically our second time for seeing that film, because seriously, I just really love Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie so much. But then again, no spoilers mentioned, because as far as I'm aware, for those who have not seen the film yet, I'll promise you, I will not mention any spoilers, because otherwise though, it'll be, well, it's hard for me to explain, because I already know for a fact it has been about a couple of hours ago since we actually mentioned something like this. So, but as you can tell, it's about the fact I was going to have to focus on trying to carefully tilt my stage around, so just in case we don't able to go for a deathless run, because otherwise though, if I ended up getting onto the first step of the playthrough, that means about the fact I have to restart this entire process all over again, in regards to the forms of, well, you get the idea about the forms of how much perfection we are able to go for this point. So anyway, also, another thing else is worth noting for, speaking of which, is about the fact that obviously though, technically since in 2 days ago in Japan, because obviously like I stated before, or we have established that before, that Japanese time zone is completely different. So technically it's been 2 days ago, in Japan anyway, that Sonic X Shadow Tokyo Mission has been released in Japan. So relatively speaking, I'm very curious to know of how many yens they somehow owned for its box office department, but we shall wait and see what happens. So, because as far as I'm aware, that we actually got ourselves some more updated financial box office results, and so far, for the sake of the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, it's actually almost at $100 million box office. So it's getting there. It is definitely getting there. So thanks to the forms of how the fact that with all this Christmassy stuff, it's actually according to plan. And in addition to that, though, is about the fact I do notice about the fact that the physical media, when it comes to not only for the DVD, but as well as the Blu-ray version, at least I found out during the forms of an HMV website, but it's also technically there's also the 4K UHD version, or specifically Ultra HD Blu-ray. So as a result, though, is about the fact that I can expect that the actual speculation for the DVD release of the film is going to be at some point in April for some time, or March, depending on the forms of the actual, well, the timing of the actual releases for certain films on DVD, so that way I can able to watch the film over and over again, because let's face it though, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the greatest movie of the year in my opinion, because as far as I'm aware, I'll get into more details about the films of certain films I recently did saw during the films in 2024 and how do I think about them, because as far as I'm aware though, we'll talk more about that probably during at some point until tomorrow. So anyway, and as far as I'm usually concerned with this stuff though, is about the fact that, well, it seems to be more specifically though, is about the fact that also during the films event some time ago in Japan, that it may look like that Animal Crossing New Horizons has officially become the best-selling physical game ever. So yeah, pretty cool. Especially concerning for the fact that that was around that time when lockdown was a thing. And as a result though, is about the fact that a lot of Nintendo Switch players out there, well, unfortunately though, I was not one of them, just because I still haven't got the game, of course. Because as far as I'm aware though, I was more into, you know, Mario stuff, Zelda stuff, and you name the rest. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, you know, Animal Crossing New Horizons is still doing pretty dang well in terms of the actual sales numbers and all that stuff, especially in Japan for its physical run. So, but anyways though, also, remember I mentioned this about the forms have been around yesterday, about the fact that, like I mentioned this before, there was also technically yet another Super Monkey Ball game that's ever came out on the iPhone devices, which is simply called Super Monkey Ball, which I was right, it did originally came out in 2008, for the iPhone and iPod Touch, but it wasn't until in sometime in 2015 where, unfortunately though, that particular game alone has been delisted, and this is the reason why, about the fact that the game was being removed from the App Store in 2015 due to their shift in game standards. So this means about the fact that we can no longer get the game anymore, unless there is actually a way you can able to actually technically revive the game, thanks to emulation as far as I'm aware. Well, I did manage to try to test it out on my spare own time, but unfortunately though, access denied. So as a result though, it is kind of unfortunate about the fact that the most of the worlds, or specifically for that matter though, that we've already experienced 3 of these worlds so far, based off from Super Monkey Ball, Banana Blitz, and all that stuff. But it is seriously, it is so unfortunate about the— oh goodness gracious, that was close. I totally forgot about those bumpers are extremely dangerous in this game, which is especially noticeable that unlike the forms of how it does it in maybe Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll for that circumstances, that I feel like that the bumpers aren't so much of a threat, or specifically in Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, either the original or the HD remastered, about the fact that thanks to Gong Gong, can able to actually get rid of any other bumpers in its way. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact it is kind of unfortunate about the fact that we don't have these specific abilities for certain characters and all that stuff in this game, but I suppose beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So, but anyway, also another thing else is worth noting for actually, is about the fact that during around that time and during at some point in 4 days time, that not only does Lego Mario Kart is going to be coming, but as well as Lego Animal Crossing sets is also going to be coming around the exact same day, within the 1st of January in 2025. So, look, it makes a pretty cool thing to release both of those Lego sets all at once, concerning for the fact that Mario Kart is pretty popular during that time, thanks to the forms of the existence of the Boosticles Pass DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch, and on top of that, like I stated before, Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch is doing really well. And speaking of which though, is about the fact I found this very fascinating about the fact that with this whole little thing has actually popped up recently, in terms of the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie related. No spoilers thankfully though, but it did manage to say there was actually a pretty cool reference to something related to Sonic Adventure 2, not only for the sake of the forms of the replica of the forms of that familiar pose from the likes of the Dreamcast version of the actual game cover for the original Sonic Adventure 2, but as well as the forms of that familiar shot in the moon, based off from the opening sequence from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the Nintendo GameCube, and as a result though, it does look pretty awesome to see, especially concerning for the fact that it also did say on the actual specific article for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie that basically though it did shows us certificate fresh from Rotten Tomatoes, as well as the forms of verified hot ratings for the sake of the forms of Rotten Tomatoes website. But in addition to that though, the cinema score was actually an A rank, so yeah, that's actually pretty swell, especially concerning for the fact that get it because in Sonic Adventure 2, the highest rank you can able to actually get up to when it comes to completing 100% completion of the entire Sonic Adventure 2 game, you have to get the certain amount of A ranks in during the forms of the well, trying to unlock the extra final stage in the forms of Sonic Adventure 2, or technically Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, from any people who ever experienced the GameCube version to begin with, because every nowadays, the Dreamcast version is actually going to get disgustingly expensive nowadays, which, luckily we still got the game back in sometime in 2011, during the forms of in Christmas time. So yeah, that's actually a pretty cool way to able to actually experience the original version of Sonic Adventure 2, at the very least on the original hardware for the Sega Dreamcast. So, pretty swell, I might say. And it also did state about the fact that it did say #1 movie in America, which makes it pretty obvious concerning for the fact that that film did somehow manage to able to do pretty well in terms of the weekend box office. So yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. So, and we already know about the fact that Sonic Movie 4 is officially in the works for a 2027 release date confirmed. So, and it's going to be due out at some point in springtime. So, anyway, speaking of something Sonic the Hedgehog related stuff though, that there's actually going to be a different developer who's going to be developing the forms of this upcoming Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, as far as I'm aware. And I believe it's not going to be Sumo Digital this time, because it may look like about the fact that it's going to be a different developer. Which, I'm afraid to tell you, I can't exactly mention about this yet though, just because we've already got that particular game fully announced, as a teaser anyway, thanks to the forms of the Game Awards this year. So, relatively speaking, we'll have to wait and see what happens during at some point in 2025. So, but anyway, and also I do remember back then, while looking back in during the forms of certain other Sonic games in the past, like let's just say in 2009 all the way up to, let's just say in 2014 for instance, is about the fact I've noticed about the fact that there are certain Sonic games have not sold very well in terms of the forms of the actual sell copies, as far as I'm aware. Like, I only did found about, like, let's just say, technically speaking, a grand total of like 4 games combined, at least as far as I'm aware, that I would classify for saying about the fact that the lowest selling Sonic games, at least as far as I do know, that's what appears to be for the fact that the Knuckles Chaotix game for the Sega Mega 32X, or anything else like that, or should I say the Sega Mega 32X, as far as I like to say, that game, Knuckles Chaotix, only sold less than 25,000 copies, which, gee, no wonder why that game does not sell well, probably because of the existence of the 32X as the most pointless add-on for the Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. So, anyway, and the next game they do not sell very well is, I would classify for saying Sonic and the Black Knight for the Wii, because I already know for a fact that there was originally trying to bring up the third storybook Sonic game, which appears to be taking place in Greek mythology, but of course that never happened due to the forms of mixed reviews of Sonic and the Black Knight, in addition to the sales numbers does not do very well in terms of Sonic and the Black Knight. Although I still find that game pretty underrated to me though, despite the fact that that game is ridiculously short, way more shorter than the forms of how it does it for Sonic and the Secret Rings, but that'll be a topic for a later time, especially maybe at some point in next year that we can able to actually do a redo Let's Play of that game after so many years of able to actually expecting to do one. So, and also for Sonic Lost World, I believe specifically though on the Wii U version of the game, that basically though it only sold for about 710,000 copies, because as far as I'm aware, it is a totally different modern Sonic game as far as we pretty much used to. Well, at least potentially speaking though, unlike in Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, including Sonic Forces as well, and even maybe a little bit on Sonic Frontiers, that obviously though it does have a boost gauge and stuff like that, whilst in Sonic Lost Worlds though does not have a boost formula gameplay. So yeah, that's as far as we can able to expect. And then meanwhile, for both Sonic Boom, Rise of Loic, and Sonic Boom, Shattered Crystal, they both do not do very well in terms of the actual sales numbers, like, usually combined into one. Like, it only sold for about 490,000 copies, concerning for the fact that, well, in terms of the Sonic Boom universe, I will still say that the TV series is actually really good and underrated, whilst compared to games themselves, well, we already know for the fact that the Wii U game is pretty much infamous for a lot of people, whilst meanwhile on the 3DS versions is okay. I mean, it's not the best, but is alright, or average at best. So, but yeah, that's as far as we can able to say at this point in time. Although, I would have liked able to mention about the forms of other topics worth noting for at this point, but honestly, there's nothing else I can talk about. Aside from the fact that obviously though, I can definitely able to actually still manage to able to try to pre-order not only the DVD version, but as well as the Blu-ray version as well, for the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, once that comes out, probably at some point in April for sometime in next year. So yeah, my expectations will be hyped. Especially noticeable concerning for the fact that I've noticed about the fact that there's going to be a lot of videos out there, in terms of YouTube anyway, and that's what appears to be for the fact that a lot of Nintendo players start able to actually speculating about the forms of what's for the plans for the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. So as a result though, but then again though, that particular topic can't wait though, especially concerning for the fact that we're still not exactly at 2025 just yet, and thus, not to mention though, is about the fact that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD hasn't exactly came out just yet. Like, around that time period though, is about the fact that we've only got about, I would classify for saying we've only got about 19 more days to go until the HD version of Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Switch is going to be releasing during that time, despite the fact that it is crazy about the fact that in the new mode, you can now carry up to 9 items at a time instead of 3, and even 1. So, but then again, that'll be a discussion for a later time, so yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to tackle through the Donkey Kong Country Returns HD version as far as the Let's Play is concerned, for improvement quality within 1080p, no longer on the default of 720p or something, so yeah, let me know in the comments. So, oh boy, this is where things gets a little bit nerve-wracking at this point. I mean, mind you though about the fact that sometimes though concentration is key here, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I think potentially speaking though is about the fact that luckily though, much like the forms of how it does it in Super Monkey Ball 1, as well as Super Monkey Ball Jr., as well as the forms of, I would classify for saying, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, as far as I'm aware, this game does have infinite amount of continues, so if you get a game over, you can able to actually continue where you left off, whilst unlike the forms of how it does it in Super Monkey Ball 2, as well as Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, and even especially noticeable with Super Monkey Ball on the Nokia N-Gage, and even Super Monkey Ball Adventure, which, as a result, those games in particular do have limited amount of continues, although, unlike in Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll, there aren't any continues, so, yeah, potentially speaking though, there's going to be a lot of times about the fact that concentration is key here, you know? And also I just realized I got the achievement, so, granted though, it's probably because I haven't exactly got that far into it this game though, because there was that one particular stage I obviously get frustrated on whenever I first played this game in particular, if I decided able to do it for a full 100% completion playthrough. That stage in questioning was stage 6 in Sinking Swamp, because my goodness, my timing when it comes to trying to get into the center of the stage just feels a bit off to me. Well, thankfully though, in the actual Let's Play department, that's not that much of an issue anymore. So anyway, so let's get into the next crown stage, at least as far as I'm usually concerned. So, I believe for this one right here is about the fact that we need to avoid a lot of those spinny little objects and stuff like that. Well, thankfully though, this stage is not too bad, all things considered. In fact, for the most part, several stages in this game is actually, pretty simple and straightforward, basically. Up until likely or so for the last few stages coming up though, especially for its honorable mentioned challenge stages, which as a result though, that'll be a discussion and during at some point until whenever we make our way to the final day of 2024. So either way though, I suppose that wait can be acceptable. So with that being said folks, it's that we get endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Sakura Edition, and that's what appears to be for the fact that we're going on to the next world, which is Corporate Caverns, based off from World 6 in Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, because it's filled to the brim with mushrooms. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas.